Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a reel that Ron sent me. He sent me an Offshore Angler, which is a Bass Pro brand. It's called the Ocean Master Jigging Reel. It's a nice aluminum framed, small formatted, high capacity or high speed jigging reel. And sent the box, and unfortunately in the box there is no manual. And we can tell from this that it's got 9-ball bearings in it. It's got a max drag of 13 pounds. Capacity is about 300 yards of braid, which is what these mostly go on. Machined aluminum frame and so on. But unfortunately the manual's not in there. Now I haven't worked on this reel, so join me as we explore the reel and try and solve the problem. Well, what is the problem? The problem is that when you go into free spool, well, it doesn't disconnect. The handle keeps turning, right? So we're going to try and see what the cause of that issue is. I did talk to Ron briefly, and he did say that he did not have this reel apart and that the reel just started acting up. So that kind of gives me a little bit of a clue about the diagnosis, but most of the time these issues happen because somebody takes the reel apart and you don't get the free spool lever aligned properly when you go to reinstall. Well, we're going to find out what the issue is. Hopefully we'll be able to remedy it. The problem that I normally have with these Bass Pro Shop reels is that they're contract manufactured, and getting pieces and parts for it is often difficult. So we're going to try and take the handle off. I started with a 10 millimeter, and it's not that, of course. It's the 11. So it's always good to have some tools close at hand, so that if one doesn't work, your next one is not far away where you need to lay down the project. So today I'm working on a saltwater jigging reel. Tomorrow I might be working on a spinning reel, and the next day a low-profile bait caster. It all depends on kind of what comes into my shop. And if you like these kinds of videos, I'd ask you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That'll give you an idea of what I'm posting and when. And you can select which ones you would like to see. Okay, one of the things that I always do when I'm working on a reel that I'm not familiar with is I take plenty of pictures. And this is a case where I'm not familiar with it, so it's a good practice to do that. And what those pictures are going to do is they're going to give you reference points as you take pieces and parts off. And I would suggest that if you're working on a reel that you don't know, please do that. For example, we just took this washer out from behind the handle, and it's got a cup on the back end of it. It's not a flat washer. It has a little pressure point there that's going to work on the bearing. So you want to note that that goes to the inside or bearing side of this reel. Normally, to take these cases off, you must remove the handle and the free spool adjuster. So let's go ahead and do that now. And if this reel was working, I would mark where the pieces are in this, but it's not working right now, so it's kind of hard to do that. The adjuster cap comes off. Then we have the ramp, and this is what I was saying. Most of the time in free spool, it's that this ramp, you can note there's two valleys in this ramp. They correspond with hills, if you will, on the other side. Well, most of the time that's not aligned properly when you go for free spool. You can see the hills, if you will, on the inside of this. There's two corresponding ones there. And typically what you want to do with these is you want to get the two valleys, the two hills to nest together. And once you do that, when you go to reinstall, you want to be over in the free spool position. A lot of times that doesn't happen when people take the reels apart, and the problem is that you never set it to the true free spool. All right, I'm going to take that Teflon washer off. And I'm putting all of my pieces and parts into a tray. So I'm doing a mental inventory of what I have, and then I'm keeping the pieces and parts that kind of belong with each of those sections in a dedicated space in that tray there. Tray is nothing more than the bottom of a fast food container. And one of the things that I I'd like to note before I get started is what tools am I going to need? Well, this one has, I believe it's called the Torx. It's the 6-sided screws. And before I did the video, I made sure that I had the bit. Those bits come in multi-packs, all kinds of universals. It's not a bad idea to go out and get them if you're going to work on a lot of different reels, because a lot of reels do use different pieces. And then this handle grip is just something I've had for quite some time now. My son-in-law, who's an airline mechanic, brought that to me, and I've been all too happy to use that. So these two bump guards do not appear to have to come out, so there's no reason not to just go ahead and reinstall those. I took it out thinking that that would be a through screw. It doesn't appear to be that, so I'm going to put that right back in. I guess it goes on this one here. Those are the stops for the lever drag arm. There's 2 holes here. Of course, I picked the wrong one. All right, so let's take the one up top there. And we can see this has been used in the ocean because there is salt and tarnish on it. Let's see if we can get the case off with these 3 now. We should be able to. If not, we'll have to go back and see if those other ones had an effect on it or not. I'm bringing these screws out now because I want to make sure that all 3 of those screws are the same, and that if there is a difference, if one's longer or shorter than the others, I want to make a note of that. And these 3 are the same, so again, same treatment. We'll put those off to the side, and we should be able to lift this whole assembly up now just like that. All right, well, here's a potential for one of those issues, or it could just be that we just pulled something out we shouldn't pull out. But this has got a finger anti-reverse dog that's nested below this piece. Now, it's quite possible that somehow that may have fallen off. The reason I say that is it's trapped underneath. If I had pulled that out with the case, that's going to line up here. We'll show you how to put that back on, but that's going to line up here. That would have fallen out on top, not the bottom. So we'll go see why that causes that as part of our service. Okay, we have a nice setup here. This is a good place to take a picture. Again, take it from multi-angles. I'm using a video camera, so I can kind of just twirl it around here and make sure that I get it right. We have a main gear held on by a clip. We have a pinion gear. The pinion gear is going into a ball bearing. And that pinion gear seems to be a little locked as well. So we'll see if we can push the main gear out here. That's part of the service. Ball bearing on this side, ball bearing on this side, substantial ball bearings, ball bearing here. This gear should come out. So we're going to soak that with a penetrating oil. I'm just going to put that off to the side for a little bit. I'm unsure why that's not freed up there, but we'll try and let that work on it while we go on the rest of the reel here. You do not need to remove the clip here or the main gear when you're doing a general service. You only need to remove that if you're in a situation where the gear has failed and you need to replace it. But if you were to do that, then you simply push the two prongs of this clip out. It's a C-clip, and that will pop off. Okay, we're going to put that aside for a moment because we're letting that other one rest there. Let's take the business end of this out, which is the spool. Notice on the back that the only thing you have on the back here, you have a clicker, and you have a channel here. That channel is where the back end of this gear is going to rest. So it's going to hold this straight up and square. Well, I'm noticing that there is some evidence of rust on here. I'm thinking that may be a cause for why some of this is not working. And it may be that this shaft was rusted into that pinion gear. We're going to see. Because this is where that would nest. And of course, you're not going to go into free spool if your gear is not moving in and out. So we want to pay more attention to that. There's a bearing on here next. That should just slide off. And I think this is probably going to be a common theme here. I think these things are rusted in. And with them being rusted in, let's get this drag washer off first. With them being rusted in, there's no movement here to allow for the free spool. There we go. Just prying it up gently. All right, just takes a little bit of patience, and eventually you will get that bearing off. And we have a spring, and this is a good place to take a picture again. So spring, bearing, bearing. The shaft probably comes out now. Yep, comes out on the back side of this. See if we can push the bearing through on that side. We can. So we have 3 bearings in this assembly. There's a series of tension washers on here. You do not need to remove the stack here. Just know that that's the way that the stack goes. What you do need to do is oil those. I oil bearings. I don't grease them. And the oil will certainly help them stop the freeze if that's what's going on. These 2 bearings appear to be the same size. You can see we've got some issues here with some corrosion. So I'm going to take the steel wool now. I'm going to clean that off. Make sure that it's sliding nicely. Again, if it's not moving in and out, it's not going to go to free spool. Of course, we still have that other issue to deal with. Okay, so the spool, essentially, just oil it, clean it. Let's reinsert this way. I'm going to take the older bearing that was sticking and put that into the case. Get that away from the problem area in case it's just one of those. The bearing is spinning. Just make sure I get that down. Then we had the tension spring. Now I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto that sore spot, if you will, on the shaft there. That'll go on the inside race of the bearing. That's going to enable me to get the additional slide factor there. That's the way that the bearing should have been working. It should have been popping in and out like that. The other one was frozen to the shaft. So that's a good hypothesis there about is that the issue. All right, this is a, looks like a carbon fiber washer. Let's just see what it says here. It's a carbon fiber drag system. So there's 2 things you can do with a carbon fiber drag system. The first one is nothing, and that's okay. And there's also a lubricant that you can use, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to use Cal's Universal Dry Grease. And unlike some of those drag washers you get where you just glob it on, you do not want to do that like I just did here. What you want to do is make sure that it goes on, and then you want to take a paper towel and wipe off all of the excess, almost to the point where you just see a sheen on that drag washer. But you don't want to overload it. Overloading it is going to be ineffective. All right, we can just reset that into the cavities. Those little tags hold that in place. Again, I think we probably already got the issue right here because we now know that that bearing was kind of frozen in there. Now we can reset here. And we'll go over. I'm going to take a short break, get a cup of coffee, and we'll go over, and what we'll do is we'll address the other issue here, which is the gear that's stuck in the side plate here. Hopefully that the penetrating oil's had a little bit of time to work, and we'll be able to get it out when we come back. Okay, I'm back. So let me show you what I just did before starting, just because you didn't need to see me wrestle too much on camera here. But what I did was I went in, let that WD-40 penetrating oil do its job, and then I removed the bearing along with that pinion gear. They both came out together, and I've just been playing around with this for a little bit now, and I finally have got it to come apart. So I think we have two issues here. We have the issue with this one being stuck and the issue with the spring on the other one being stuck. Between the two of them, I'm hopeful that that's going to resolve the free spool issue. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil, penetrating oil, clean this up one more time, and you can see the evidence of the rust in there. So some of these materials are nice, some, well, not so nice. They shouldn't be freezing. Also on this side, you can see that, well, we still have that buildup there. So again, I'm going to just use that steel wool to clean up what I can. Now, penetrating oil did help take some of that rust off, but those clearly are the issues there. Okay, I'm going to put some grease onto this gear before I put it back into the bearing. That'll help it from seizing again. I'm going to oil the bearing. Now that's got a shield on it. It's not sealed, it's shielded. And I think what we'll do while we got that grease brush is we're going to grease that whole pinion gear up. Now this one's moving the way it should be moving. I just saw it move as I tried to put the grease on it. But it's moving independent. You can hold the back race and turn it, and it's moving the way it should. We'll take that and reinstall that back into the case. Just even pressure is all it takes to put it back in. Sometimes you got to walk it down a little bit, but you will get it there. And patience, like everything else, is the key. Found the secret here. We're going to take that gear with the two. Insert and load. Just like that. Now we can put the rest of this on. And now you can see in the case when you have that separation that there's a springing going on there, which is what should happen. Line your case up, grab your case screws, the 3 of those. Remember, those are the Torx screws. It looks like if I can get the one, that'll take the pressure off the others. Let me reset this the right way. One down below here. And one above. I like this little tool because it has that cross hatching on it. You can actually spin the shaft, as you see me do with that electrician's screwdriver. You can spin the shaft without having to do the full wrist action. And then you can just use that knob when it starts to get a little bit tougher. Now let's see how we did now. Well, we certainly have it spinning, and as we know, we've got an issue there. All right, to install the free spool lever then, get that little Teflon washer which goes behind that lever, then the lever. Set that over in this free spool area, about there. Now we want to get the valleys, the hills and valley, if you will, lined up. Just like that. Then we want to get the cap and the spring. We can tighten that down. Now, your adjustments, that's a good time to speak of the adjustments. Your adjustment needs to be made when you are in the free spool mode. Don't try to adjust your travel on this thing anywhere but free spool. All right, we have a spinning free spool, which is good. The handle is not moving. Let's move into a strike position. Well, we still don't have a handle moving, so let's keep coming back and adjust again. First strike. All right, now we have the handle moving. Full strike, and you can see the handle's turning now. But when you back it off, the handle is not turning. So this is properly adjusted now. You can play around a little bit with it if you want that free spool first strike to happen a little bit sooner rather than later. Well, that's okay. Remember what we said about this? It's got a cup on the bottom of it, so make sure when you go to install the handle, the cup goes on. This is one where the picture would have helped. I'm going to apologize to Ron if I'm setting this in the wrong position. I'll come back and do it if that's the wrong position for this reel. And we're going to just put the cap on, and I'm looking in my parts tray, and it's always a good sign when I go into my parts tray and I agree with what's in there. So I'm just looking in there. There's only a tie-down clip and a tie-down screw left, and then we'll give it that final test. We'll see how we did. The cap, line it up, put that tie-down screw back in, and give it a test. Okay, we're ready for our final test. Right now we're in free spool. We have our free spool running, which we didn't have before. Now when we go to first strike, and we have the kind of the minimal drag, and then when we go to full strike, well, you're tightened down now to the point where that's the way it should work. So there you go. That's it. That's your offshore angler Ocean Master 10, I guess, is the size. Compact jigging reel with free spool. There you go. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. It doesn't have to be on this reel, but any questions I will certainly try and answer for you. And finally, to those that subscribe, to those that are our first responders, to those that have a role in keeping us safe during the pandemic, thank you all for what it is that you do and for watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.